Imagine you're taking a test in, let's say, math class. Picture the average classroom. A group of students are all sitting in the same room together, and each one is in one of the many desks arranged into semi-perfect rows, yourself being unlucky enough to sit in the back corner. As you take the test, some pencils are tapping in either boredom or frustration, and others are gliding almost effortlessly across the paper. A stressful atmosphere presses down onto you and your peers, causing your backs to slouch over in concentration, ready to pick out every little detail. Just then, in the middle of this stressful environment, you finish your test. Finally! You studied so hard and you are sure you'll ace it. Proud yet nervous, you stand up from your seat and go to turn it in. You look down at the paper in your hands. It's covered in text and pencil markings. You're confident in your answers, and you feel like you can do anything. Alas, the paper has distracted you from your footing, and you trip on yourself. As panic overtakes you, you manage to catch yourself just before falling flat on your face. Your face flushing a bright cherry pink hue, you stand up, turn in the test, and walk back to your seat in shame. Oh gosh, that was so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, people are gonna make fun of me. They're gonna call me like pencil drop kid or something. No, not pencil drop kid. I fell over. Why would they call me pencil drop kid? Yeah, that was probably really over-exaggerated, but yeah, you get the point. So, we've all been self-conscious before. That's basically a fact. We can't deny it. Whether it be before a job interview, presenting, talking to someone you've become attracted to, or even in just a simple conversation with a peer. You start wondering what those around you are thinking, wondering if they're thinking bad things about you, like what your hair looks like, what you look like, what your body looks like, the way you're talking, some random jokes you're deciding to drop in. Those kinds of things. It's the kind of things that those of us who have mostly survived middle school and high school have wondered. Well, let me tell you this. That's not the true meaning of self-consciousness. In fact, it's just simply being insecure. So, here's the truth. Being self-conscious is being aware of yourself, knowing what you look like, knowing how you're acting, being able to recognize yourself in a mirror, and realizing that you have made the realization that you have realized the realization that you are in the mirror, if that makes any kind of sense at all. And there are two types of this self-consciousness. One is the much more commonly acknowledged bad, and the other is good. My goal for this talk is to help you not only tell these two apart, but to help you strengthen this good and use it to your advantage. So to strengthen the good, we first have to figure out what the bad is. And it happens to go hand in hand with low self-esteem. Having these sorts of negative emotions will make you fear what other people are thinking about you, which can cause social anxiety. You'll stay home, away from other people can see you and make fun of you. This in turn leads to low self-esteem and depression, which causes all sorts of other issues for you, and we don't want that. To identify these kinds of emotions, you'll want to look at how you react to things, like embarrassment, making mistakes, or just your own emotions in general. Do you respond with hostility, or find yourself blaming others for your own shortcomings? Or do you just have issues with self-esteem in general? If so, you could be struggling with negative self-consciousness and need to seek some sort of help from a therapist or someone you love, like a friend or a family member. This can be a bit hard though, as some people may feel shame or guilt and feel too horrible about themselves or the mistakes they've made in order to address the problem, which can be helped, thankfully, by engaging in activities that make you feel good about yourself and avoiding the ones that can trigger these kinds of negative emotions. For example, you can combat social anxiety by doing just the simple things like buying groceries for yourself or making just a little bit of small talk. So now there's positive self-consciousness. Obviously, it's the complete opposite of negative self-consciousness. When I was talking about what negative self-conscious is, were you thinking of something like, that's not me? Well, if so, you could be on the better side of the spectrum with positive self-consciousness. Do you have a good amount of pride in accomplishments or enjoy social environments? Do you take responsibility for your mistakes? People with these kinds of emotions tend to have more confidence, pushing themselves and sometimes even those around them to accomplish their goals and test their limits. This doesn't mean people with negative self-consciousness can't do the same though. Emotions we usually perceive as negative and not very good to have can help us, believe it or not. For example, jealousy helps us realize what we want, and sadness helps us appreciate what we have. And you can thank Inset for that lesson. So while they don't feel great to have, they help us in our quest for social acceptance, which is very important for us teenagers. Being self-conscious is being aware of yourself, as I already said. You can look at where you fit into society. You can find people like you and associate with them, which is what allows us to be able to make friends with people similar to ourselves. And it also allows us to look at the flaws in ourselves and be able to fix them, which is something that not many other creatures can do. For example, an annoying and rambunctious dog does not possess this ability, so they can't fix their flaws or recognize themselves in a mirror. To add to this positivity, we can talk positive about ourselves and try not to compare ourselves to others. We can focus less on perfection and more on just simply being satisfied. So, what I ask you to take away from this is, when you're self-conscious, make the most of it. Think of how you can use this to improve yourself, and most of all, be thankful.